talking about Anton Chekov's story, The Man in a Case, and this is a man named Bylakov. And the turn of the story is when this guy, who, as it turns out, is a kind of a recluse, but he meets a girl. Her name is Varinka, and she's the opposite of him. She is ebullient and lively and has a ringing laugh. Chekov even goes, ha, ha, ha. She laughed, she sang, she danced. And interestingly, he is too protective, too cautious to approach her. But other people, including the headmistress of the school, decides, it'd be kind of a good thing for Bylakov. He's so reclusive. It'd be good for him to get married. He's about 40. Now, here's this girl, Varinka. She's about 30. She's a lot of fun. Here's the headmistress. He's a good deal over 40 and she's 30. I believe she would marry him. And so the whole town gets it into their heads that, look, this is going to be a match that we ought to make. So they encourage the two of them. They keep prodding this guy Bylakov to make a proposal. And Bylakov being the man in the case, he goes, I like her. He says, and I know everyone ought to get married, but this is all so sudden. One needs to think about it. And his friend goes, not really a friend, but an acquaintance goes, get married. What's there to think about? He goes, no. Marriage is a serious step. You got to weigh the duties, the responsibilities. Things could go wrong. So he keeps putting it off. He won't do it. And then what happens is one day he sees the girl Varinka on a bicycle riding with her brother. Now, he doesn't know immediately that it's the brother, but he's sort of scandalized by this idea that here is Varinka along with the school teacher, this is the brother, and they're riding a bike. And so he decides that this is inappropriate. It's not, first of all, it's inappropriate for a school teacher to be seen but with a young unmarried woman. He goes, I've got to sort of take up the matter with him. So Bylakov goes to see the guy. And the guy basically tells Bylakov, stay out of it. She's my sister. What's it to you? So what if we're riding a bike? Big deal. Buzz off. And Bylakov he can't really get his head around it. He's like, well, have you cleared this matter? Have you gotten it approved by the school? This is the kind of guy he is, very anal, as we say these days. And so he begins to become annoying. And so the brother just kind of pushes him, and accidentally Bylakov slips and he goes rolling down the stairs, boom, 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 and he lands at the bottom. And this is not only humiliating enough, but at this exact moment, the girl Varinka shows up and she looks at him and she goes, well, she doesn't understand what's going on. She doesn't, of course, realize that he was pushed. She feels that he just kind of slipped and he's not badly hurt in any way, so she can see there's no reason to be alarmed. And so she laughs. Ha 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 ha. She thinks it's very funny that this happened. But of course, Bylakov can't take it that way. He is so insulted. He's so humiliated. He feels like he has been degraded first by the brother and now by the girl herself. He immediately abolishes all thoughts of marrying her. And in fact, his self-image is so damaged that he goes home. He refuses to come out of his house. He catches a horrible infection inside the house and he dies. And then, of course, this is very Chekovian in its sort of irony. A month later, Bylakov died. We all went to his funeral. Now, when he was lying in the coffin, his expression was mild, agreeable, even cheerful, writes Chekov, as though he were glad that he had last been put into a case which he would never leave again. So this is a man who lived all his life in a case, and now finally he is in a case, otherwise known as a coffin, and this is a case that he will never get out of. And says Chekov, yes, he had attained his ideal. And so here is Chekov. You might think the story might somehow end there, but it really doesn't, because it continues with two other guys who are now commenting about Bylakov's life and sort of analyzing it. And one of them, a guy named Ivan Ivanovich, makes a very interesting observation. He says, hey, this is how it was for this poor guy. He always wanted to shield himself from reality. He couldn't get out, if you will, of his case. He couldn't see the world as it is. And then he says, quote, "And isn't our living in town airless and crowded, our writing useless papers, our playing musical instruments, isn't that all sort of a case for us? And our spending our whole lives among trivial, fussy men and silly, idle women, are talking and listening to all sorts of nonsense? Isn't that a case for us too?" I think what Chekov is getting at here is the human tendency, which is also true ideologically, to get yourself into a case or to get yourself into a framework, into a bubble in which you can't look at things as they are. You have to interpret things through the narrow lens or the narrow peephole, if you will, looking out of the case. And what Chekov is basically saying, and again, Chekhov's stories don't have morals. It's not that there's a lesson to be learned. It's more that there are insights to be derived. And the insight I'm drawing here, and we see this so often with the left, is they can't get out of their bubble. They can't look at Trump the way that he is. It has to be through a series of slogans. And so they are, in their own way, men in a case. Men and women enclosed in such a way that they can't see the world as it is. And we should also remember that we ourselves need to resist the temptation to be that way.